Dimensions of time. That time has many dimensions is a concept often advanced to account for prophecy. The gist of the idea is that time, when seen to unfold in a linear way, with the past coming before the present and the present before the future, might in another dimension not be experienced sequentially. The past, present, future could exist simultaneously. The concept that there are unfamiliar dimensions of time is most easily approached by way of those dimensions with which we are already familiar, those of length, height, and breadth. These in turn are the best approached quite literally from a starting point, which geometrically speaking has a location but no dimensions. It does, however, relate to figures with dimensions in the following way. If a point is moved through space, it marks a line with one dimension of length. If the line is moved through space, it traces the figure of a plane with the two dimensions of length and breadth. And if a plane is moved into space, it traces a figure with three dimensions of length, breadth, and height. We can also work backwards from a three-dimensional body and find that cross-sections of the three-dimensional cube is a two-dimensional plane, and that cross-selection of the plane is a one-dimensional line, and that cross-selection of that line is a one-dimensionless point. From this we can infer that a body of the three dimensions is the cross-section of a body of four dimensions, and that a three-dimensional body, when moved in a certain way, will produce a body of four dimensions. Then comes the question of what sort of body could a three-dimensional shape be, the cross-section, and in what sort of new direction could a three-dimensional shape be moved to produce one of four dimensions, since movement other than up and down, backwards, forward, or side to side would simply produce a larger figure, not one of a different dimension. The answer, of course, is the feature duration. For as soon as something ceases to endure, it ceases to exist. To the three familiar dimensions, then, we should add duration in time as the fourth dimension. Ordinarily, three-dimensional bodies should therefore be properly described as a four-dimensional and a body with three dimensions. It must be defined as having only length, breadth, and height, but no duration. Is such a thing possible? It is, but only hypothetically. For in fact, a point, a line, a plane do not truly exist as such, and line that can be seen as breadth as well as length and duration, just as any physical plane has a certain thickness as well as length and breadth. What movement, then, must a figure of three dimensions undergo to produce a body of four dimensions? We moved a plane in the dimension of height to produce a cube. So the movement of a hypothetical cube in the dimension of time should produce a real figure of fourth dimensions. What does movement in the dimension of time mean? As we said, it must mean movement in a new direction, not up, down, or sideways. Are there any other kinds of movement? For a start, there is the movement that the Earth's rotation imparts to everything upon it, and that puts apparently motionless objects in motion. We can thus say that a three-dimensional body is the hypothetical motionless cross-section of a real body whose fourth dimension duration is inseparable from the motion that turning world inevitably imparts to everything. Further, the inevitable motions are that of the Earth around the Sun, and the Sun around the center of the galaxy, and perhaps the galaxy itself around some unknown point. Since any perceptive body is, in fact, undergoing all these motions simultaneously, we can say that everything has these dimensions, though in a way that is ordinarily imperceivable.
because motions and dimension, they imply are only perceivable in a framework of time. They can be referred to as dimensions of time. If duration is one aspect of time, what might be the others be? Among several possibilities, we can suggest the appearance and disappearance, change and reoccurrence. Of all possibilities, only duration is perceivable. When we say that something appears, we mean that it suddenly is note in existence. When something disappears, we note its lack of existence. We perceive no intermediate condition or appearing or disappearing. In the same way, we talk about change, but actually only develop the concept that we perceive the aggregates of characteristics that exist or cease to exist. And so we infer, but do not observe, that the reoccurrence of sunset and sunrise, the passage of seasons, the growth of a child, and yet these things really appear and disappear, change and reoccur, although not actually perceived to do so. They are, so to speak, hypothetical to us and must have the reality in which dimensions of time, just as hypothetical three-dimensional body becomes real, that is perceivable in the dimension of time we call duration. If access to higher dimensions of time belong to one body, it is at least theoretically possible that it belongs, though invisibly, to all bodies. We can assume that such access is by way of unfamiliar modes or levels of consciousness, and that the same name we give to one of those is prophecy.
That's dimensions of time. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for sticking around. Might pop another story soon. Be good humans.